21st of 2012. This is the first episode of the Sports World Forums podcast, and today we're going to be focusing on Game 5 of the NBA Finals, a little bit of NHL stuff, and maybe a little bit of baseball if we get to it. But first, we got the NBA Finals, Game 5, and the big story coming out of Game 4 was the injury to LeBron, which really wasn't an injury at all. There was negative response to the way he acted about basically just a cramp. And I gotta say, I've seen it before out of LeBron. I believe it was in the Celtics series where near the end of the first half, he blew a layup. And after he blew it, he basically acted like he injured his ankle on the play. And sure enough, there was a timeout. Everyone's like, oh no, LeBron's hurt. Come back from the commercial break. He's all right. He's running 100%. He's going full speed. I don't. LeBron doesn't get hurt, and that's just something that we've seen. We don't see him get hurt often. So, when you see him limping around like that, or wincing and playing like he's got a broken leg or something, it's something that people really focus on and they make a big deal out of. But really, it was just a cramp, and I think the way that LeBron acted about a cramp, it's kind of silly. I don't know. I've like I said, I saw it before, and it pisses me off a little bit when you see a player act like, oh, it's the end of the world. He's got a cramp. But anyways, I really think the Heat got this in the bag. How much it pains me to say that, but I just can't see them losing 3 straight to Oklahoma. It really doesn't matter. I don't see the Heat ever losing really 3 straight in the playoffs. They got too much experience, too much skill, and really Oklahoma could be leading this series. They could be up 3-1, and I just think it's been them who's been shooting themselves in the foot. You look at certain plays. I mean, I think it was either game 2 or game 3 where they had a massive lead, and then all of a sudden they fouled back-to-back 3-point shooters. Heat took 6 points out of that, and then all of a sudden the wheels just fell off, and the Heat took it from there. So I can't see it. The Thunder, I think they made a great effort. I mean, it's not impossible. It's not impossible for them. They could definitely win the game, win the next 3, but I don't see it being something that will really happen. But the Thunder will definitely be back. They got too much young talent there not to be back. I mean, you give Durant will have an offseason, work on his stuff. Russell Westbrook, you got James Harden, Serge Ibaka, and who knows who they're going to get in free agency. But definitely, I think, maybe a rematch next year. Who knows? But I definitely, I don't see the Thunder winning this series anymore. I think they just shot themselves in the foot. So, who knows if it's going to be tonight? Who knows if it's going to be later on in the series? But I just can't see the Thunder winning it. And hey, LeBron will get his first. Getting to the NHL, of course, the NHL had its awards ceremony yesterday. Usual things. I was a little bit disappointed that Adam Henrique didn't win the Calder Trophy, but Gabriel Landeskog definitely deserved it. He was a key factor for the Avs this season, and I definitely think that if him and Duchesne can get something going, it will kind of be like when Chris Stewart was there, because Chris Stewart really, I think he had his best season when he was playing with Duchesne, and they help each other out. Chris Stewart will defend. Chris Chris Stewart was a big body. He'll defend Duchesne, who's he's not too small, but I think if Duchesne has that power forward beside him, it allows him to do more things, and he gets a little bit more added protection. But yeah, I definitely think Gabriel Landeskog he deserved it. I think any of the three guys that were there deserved it. It probably would have been Ryan Nugent-Hopkins if he didn't get injured, which I think going into the draft, and this is a good segue, going into the draft tomorrow, I definitely think Edmonton's got a lot of questions, and it's going to be probably their toughest draft. I know in 2010 it was a little bit tough. It was Taylor versus Tyler, and they took Taylor Hall. But this year it's really difficult. You got to figure what's going to happen with defense and what's going to happen with your goaltending situation. They got some great forwards. We saw Sam Gagner really break out this year. Of course, Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jordan Eberle. He's a stud. They also got PRV, who he struggled at times, but he can definitely be a good player. And they got other role players at forward there. The problem is they just don't have the defense. I believe they got Nick Schwartz at trade deadline, which helps them defensively, but they need more. They need more of that, and I think really it's going to be tough for them, because Yakupov is definitely the first overall pick in that draft. He's the best player coming out of that draft. Everyone's known that since the last NHL draft, that this kid is the real deal. And I think for Edmonton it's really tough to pass up on him, but who knows? I've seen mock drafts where Edmonton goes with Ryan Murray, and I really like Ryan Murray. I've been a big fan of his. I think he's going to be a great two-way player in the league. I don't know if he's worth that first overall pick, and it's really difficult. If you trade down, you have the chance that maybe you don't get a guy like Ryan Murray. But there's a lot of defensive prospects coming into this draft, a lot of high draft picks for defensemen. So, if I'm Edmonton, I would say if you have an opportunity to get at least a great goaltender, or just some kind of defenseman that's going to help you out, just someone to make your team more defensive minded, and help the younger guys out too, or even just bring in a younger guy. I think you got to pull the trigger on that, and if it means trading down to the middle rounds, then it means that, and then you could probably take a defenseman at that point, or you can even take Malcolm Subban, who's a great goaltending prospect in this draft, and he's expected to be going somewhere in the mid to late first round. So it's going to be interesting. I definitely think Yakupov was the first overall pick in everyone's mock draft until the draft lottery happened, and we found out that it wasn't going to be Columbus, it was going to be Edmonton, and then all of a sudden Edmonton has a lot of forwards, and they don't have a lot of defense, they don't have a lot of goaltending, So it definitely be interesting tomorrow to see what's going to happen. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Definitely, I think there'll probably be movement, and I can definitely see one of the top 5 teams in the draft. I can definitely see them trading up, trading down, whatever it takes. Of course, Columbus put Rick Nash back on the trading block. We'll see if he gets moved then. So it's definitely an interesting draft. I know people have been saying it's not overly strong draft, but I definitely think it'd be interesting to see. Leafs, one of those teams that could make a deal, and I definitely could see them possibly trading out of that pick. 5th overall, definitely got some weight behind it. And maybe, Roberto Luongo was linked to the Leafs for a long while. He's apparently one of the teams, or Leafs are apparently one of the teams that he put on his list of teams he would like to be traded to. And I think if that trade's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in the draft. But at the same time, for the Leafs, you got to look and think, how much is he going to cost us? And you can't spend too much, especially factoring in how long and how expensive that contract is of Roberto Luongo's. But definitely, if you try to go for Corey Schneider, which, would probably be the better pick because he's young and he's got a better looking contract for sure. It's tough though. I'm quite sure there'd be added value on Corey Schneider. I'm quite sure if you're asking for Corey Schneider, there's going to be you're going to have to give up more than if you were going to trade for Roberto. Now it gets us to MLB, which it's been an interesting season. Definitely me living in the Toronto area, I've seen in 5 days 3 starters go down, and the Jays, I don't know how they're gonna recover from that. They had Joel Canero on the mound last night. He struggled, went only 4 innings. It's definitely difficult to go through that. Three starters. It's crazy, but we've seen a lot of crazy things in this MLB season. Who would have thought the Orioles would be that good? Who would have thought, again, Pittsburgh Pirates, second in the division, not too far away from first. Washington Nationals are leading their division. Phillies are in last in that division. Toronto, definitely not, I don't think a team that people would expect to be in first, but definitely not a team that people expect to be in last right now. And the individual performances too. Adam Dunn having a amazing comeback season after he basically was the free agent bust of the year. I mean, when you hit sub 200, you expect some power numbers to make it look better, but he didn't even have the power numbers. This season, he's putting everything together, and it's really looking good for the White Sox at this point. They signed Orlando Hudson. I think Orlando Hudson definitely not as big of an offensive threat anymore, but defensively has always been a threat. He's a stud out there on the field, and again, being in Toronto, I've seen Orlando Hudson when he was here, and he can make phenomenal plays. He goes out there every day, and he's going 100% every day. So yeah, I definitely like what the White Sox are doing. In the West, you got the Rangers. Rangers got that. I don't think anyone's. I really think the Rangers could go back to the World Series. I don't think there's anything stopping them. I think if Josh Hamilton keeps on performing the way he's performing, he's going to be the MVP. And Darvish, he's been amazing as well. So you really got to look at that and say, wow, this Rangers team. I don't know. You can look at the Angels. And I definitely think the Angels got a good roster. But I just can't see the Rangers giving up that first spot in the division. I can see the Angels in the wild card, definitely. I think Mike Trout, definitely. I love him. He's a stud. He's only 20, and he's a stud out there in the center field. And in terms of Albert Pujols, he's turning it around finally, and that's got to be promising. But yeah, overall, it's been a weird kind of MLB season, but what do you expect? So that has been episode 1 of the Sports World Forums podcast. I will see you next time.